Okay, the second remediation model is on graphing and interpreting linear and nonlinear relations. So let's look at the first question. It says, which relation below is not a function? Remember, a function is representative of one x value having only one y value. So when we look at letter A, -2 has one y value, 1 has one y value, and 0 has one y value. So A is a function. When we look at B, 5 has one y value, 4 has one y value, and 3 has one y value. So it is a function. C, -4 has one y, -7 has one y, and 11 has one y. So it is a function. The problem with D is the x value of 1 has two separate y values. So D cannot be a function. Question 2 says, what is the domain and range of the relation shown in the table below? So let's recall, domain is our x values, and range is our y values. And we're only talking about the table of numbers, so our domain is -1, 1, 3, and 5, and our range would be -5, -1, 3, and 7. And it says, is the relation in the table above a function? So does every x have only one y? And the answer would be yes. The next question says, which equation has a graph with no y-intercept? So if we think about that, we want a graph that is never going to cross the y-axis. So it has to be something like this. It's never going to cross the y. So that looks like B, x equals 1. The next question says, what is the slope, the x-intercept, and the y-intercept of the graph 3x plus y equals 7? So this takes us back to the basics of y equals mx plus b. And in our equation, it is not set up in y equals mx plus b format. So we're going to first start with 3x plus y equals 7, and we're going to rewrite it in y equals mx plus b format. So I'm going to subtract the positive 3x to the other side, and I get y equals 7 minus 3x. So now I can identify each of my parts. My slope is the number that's in front of the x, which is the -3. My x-intercept, so that's asking me, where does my graph cross the x-axis? So that's basically saying y has to be 0. So in order for me to find my x-intercept, I have to substitute 0 in for y and solve for x. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 7 to the left-hand side. Next, I'm going to divide by a -3. So my x-intercept is at 7/3, 0. And then for my y-intercept, that's my b in my original equation, which we solved for y equals mx plus b format, and we got 7. So 0, 7 would be my y-intercept. All right, we're talking about Maria riding a bike home from school. It says the graph below shows Maria's distance from school over time. It says describe Maria's bike ride home with respect to time and distance, and be sure to include any changes in speed during the bike ride. So she starts off and she's headed away from school towards home, and after 30 minutes, so starting right here, after 30 minutes, she's about a mile away from home. And what's happening from 30 to 40 minutes? So I would say about a mile away from home, or after 30 minutes, she takes a 10-minute break. So that time where there's nothing happening from 30 to 40 where it's a flat rate, she's not going anywhere. And then she continues toward school. So it looks like school is a little over 1.5 miles away from home. And it takes her 50 minutes. It's a long time. Unfortunately, I don't think I can see this question. Let's see. A y-intercept of the graph, negative 2y equals x minus 4, maybe? What is the y-intercept of the graph? We'll go with that. So the y-intercept would mean that x has to be 0. If that is the case, and I'm solving for y, then I would have negative 4 divided by negative 2, so y would equal positive 2. So anytime you're asking for intercepts, you want to make the other variable 0. Okay, the next question says, which of the following is an equation of a line with a slope of negative 2 that passes through the point negative 4, 3? So let's go back to the basics. Y equals mx plus b. And we already know what our slope is. So we know we're going to have an equation that looks like y equals negative 2x plus or minus something. But I don't know what my b is, and that's what I have to find out. So I'm going to take what I'm given. I'm given negative 4, 3, and I'm given negative 2, and I'm going to substitute all of that into my y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to solve for b. So my y in this case is 3. My m is negative 2, and my x is negative 4. And at this point in time, I'm going to find out what my new y-intercept is. So I have 3 equals 8 plus b. I subtract 8, so b equals negative 5. So now I have my new equation, y equals negative 2x minus 5. Okay, the next one says, write an equation of a line that passes through the points negative 2, 5, and 1, 2. So this is almost the exact same problem, except for they don't tell me what the slope is. Up here they told me what the slope is and they gave me a point. This time they give me 2 points. So the very first thing I'm going to have to do is find my slope. Excuse me, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or 2 minus 5, 1 minus a negative 2. So my slope's going to be negative 3 over positive 3, or my slope is negative 1. Now I can choose one of the points. It doesn't matter which one. Either one of them is going to give me the same result. I'm just going to choose the second one. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did right up here. So I'm going to do y, which is 2, equals m, which is negative 1, times x, which is 1, plus b. So 2 equals negative 1 plus b. If I add 1 over here, I get b equals 3. So my equation is y equals my slope, which is negative 1, negative 1x plus 3. Okay, for 18, we're going to graph this equation. So I need a slope, which is the number in front of x, and I need a y-intercept, which is negative 1. So I start with my y-intercept, so I put a point at negative 1, and my slope is rise over run, so I go up 2, right 3, put a point, up 2, right 3, put a point. For number 19, same concept, except for I see an inequality sign. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more work at the end, but I'm still going to need a slope, which is -1/3, and I need a y-intercept, which is 4. So I'm going to start at 4. This time I have a negative slope, so instead of going up 1 and right 3, I'm going to go down 1 and right 3. Down 1 and right 3. Now, when I go to graph my line, because it has a line underneath, because it's less than or equal to, I am going to use a solid line instead of a dotted line. If it was just less than, I would use a dotted line. And now I want all of the numbers that are less than or equal to this line. So I'm going to color down here below. Okay. Question 20 says the graph below represents the total number of times a certain website was visited over a 5-day period. It says what is the slope of the line segment and what does it represent in terms of the situation? So if I'm standing at 0, I go up 30 is my rise, my run is 1. So this is 30 over 1. Let's see if that's true. If I'm standing at 30, I go up to 60 and over 1. So yeah, that's true. So my slope is 30 over 1. And what does that represent? That represents 30 visits in one day. 30 visits per day. It says write an equation that represents the total number of times this website is visited after D days. So V equals 30D. If this trend continues, how many times will this website be visited in 30 days? So we're going to substitute 30 in for 30. 3 times 3 is 9. Add 2 zeros and we get 900 times. Okay, that concludes Standard 2. At this time, you will have an assessment. Good luck.